There comes a moment in life when you realize that nothing truly changes until you change the decision you have made within yourself. The world outside seems powerful, unpredictable, and sometimes even unfair. People believe circumstances control their destiny. They wait for the right opportunity, the right connection, or the right timing before they allow themselves to believe that something greater is possible. But the truth is far more powerful than that. Everything in your world begins with a single inner declaration. Not a wish, not a hope, a declaration, the kind that carries certainty, the kind that feels final. The moment you decide within yourself that something is already true, you move into a completely different state of being. And from that moment forward, the world begins to reorganize itself around that inner decision. Most people spend years asking, waiting, and searching for proof before they believe. Yet the ones who transform their lives understand a deeper law. The moment you accept something within, life begins arranging the evidence to match it. So today, I invite you to do something simple but incredibly powerful. Make one decision within yourself. Declare it once, accept it fully, and then watch as life begins to shift in ways you could never have forced. Because the moment the inner world changes, the outer world has no choice. There is a moment in every person's life when they realize that change does not truly begin in the outer world. It begins within. Many people spend years trying to manipulate circumstances, improve conditions, or chase opportunities, believing that if they work hard enough on the outside, life will eventually shift in their favor. Yet the deeper truth is that the outer world only reflects the inner state that has already been accepted. The real turning point in life occurs when a person stops begging life for change and instead makes a powerful inner declaration about who they are and what is now true for them. A declaration is different from a wish. A wish carries uncertainty. It hopes that something might happen someday. But a declaration carries authority. It carries the feeling that something is already decided. When a person declares something within themselves with true conviction, it is no longer a distant possibility. It becomes an accepted reality in their consciousness. The moment this acceptance happens, something invisible but powerful begins to move. The mind shifts into a new state, and that new state starts influencing everything that follows. Most people underestimate the power of a single decision made within. They believe that change requires constant effort, endless affirmations, or repeated attempts to convince themselves of something. But true transformation rarely begins with repetition alone. It begins with a moment of clarity when a person decides once and for all what is true about them. In that moment, they stop negotiating with doubt. They stop waiting for permission from the outside world. Instead, they quietly accept a new identity within themselves. The reason this inner declaration is so powerful is because consciousness is the source from which all experiences flow. Every action, every reaction, every opportunity that appears in life is connected to the state of mind a person consistently occupies. When someone declares within themselves, "This is who I am now," they are stepping into a completely different state of consciousness. And once that state is occupied, life begins to organize itself around it. Think about how often people unknowingly make negative declarations about themselves. Someone may silently accept the idea that success is difficult, that opportunities are rare, or that happiness always seems just out of reach. These quiet assumptions become internal declarations, and over time they shape the experiences that appear in that person's life. The world simply reflects what has been accepted as truth within the mind. But the moment a person becomes aware of this, they gain the ability to change the entire direction of their life. A single inner declaration can redefine everything. It might be the decision that you are now successful. It might be the acceptance that you are worthy of abundance, love, or peace. Whatever the declaration may be, the key is the feeling behind it. When the declaration feels real, when it carries the certainty of something already accomplished, the mind begins to operate from that new position. Thoughts change, reactions change, choices change, and gradually the outer world begins to mirror that transformation. This is why one powerful declaration can be more effective than years of hesitation. When the mind truly accepts something as done, it stops searching for confirmation. It stops wondering if it will happen. Instead, it begins to think, act, and feel from the place where the desire has already been fulfilled. This shift may seem subtle, but it is incredibly powerful because every experience in life flows from the state you consistently occupy. The beauty of this principle is its simplicity. You do not need complicated methods or endless effort. What you need is a clear inner decision. The moment you declare something within and accept it as reality, you step into a new version of yourself. From that point forward, your role is simply to remain loyal to that decision. Life may not rearrange itself instantly in ways that are obvious. Sometimes the changes unfold quietly and naturally. Opportunities appear where none seemed to exist before. People respond differently to you. Circumstances begin to shift in unexpected ways. These changes are not random. They are the natural result of a new state of consciousness being expressed. Everything begins with that single moment of decision within. A moment when you stop doubting your ability to transform your life and instead declare that a new reality is already yours. When that declaration is genuine, when it carries the feeling of completion, the world has no choice but to begin reflecting it. And all of it started with just one powerful choice made within yourself. See, but to follow. One of the greatest challenges for the human mind is learning to accept something as real before there is visible proof. Most people are trained from childhood to believe only what they can see, touch, or measure. They look at their circumstances and use those conditions as the final authority on what is possible for them. If success is not visible, they assume it has not arrived. If opportunity is not present, they assume it is not meant for them. In this way, the outer world becomes the ruler of their inner belief. But the deeper truth is the complete opposite. The outer world is always responding to what has already been accepted within. The moment you understand this, you begin to see why accepting the end result before any evidence appears is such a powerful practice. The physical world moves slowly compared to the movement of consciousness. When a new idea, belief, or identity is accepted internally, the outer world does not change instantly. There is a short period where the inner reality and the outer appearance seem different. This is where many people lose faith. They look around, see no visible proof, and immediately return to their old assumptions. But those who understand the law of inner transformation know that this delay is natural. Accepting the end before the evidence means choosing to live from the feeling that your desire has already been fulfilled. It means you are no longer waiting for life to confirm it before you believe it. Instead, you make the decision that it is already done. This does not require pretending or forcing yourself to ignore reality. Rather, it means shifting your inner position so that the outcome feels settled within you. Imagine how differently a person thinks and behaves when they already feel successful compared to when they are desperately trying to become successful. When someone is trying to become something, their thoughts are filled with effort, worry, and constant questioning. They wonder when it will happen, how it will happen, and whether it will happen at all. But when a person accepts that the result is already theirs, their entire mental atmosphere changes. The tension disappears. The mind becomes calmer and more confident because the end has already been decided within. This shift may seem subtle, but it carries enormous power. The moment the mind accepts the final outcome, it begins operating from a completely different state of consciousness. Instead of thinking from lack, it thinks from fulfillment. Instead of reacting with doubt, it reacts with quiet certainty. Over time, this inner state begins influencing every action, every decision, and every encounter. Many people believe they must first see signs before they can feel confident. They search for small hints that something is changing. They constantly ask whether the process is working. But this kind of thinking keeps the mind tied to uncertainty. When you are always searching for proof, you are silently declaring that the outcome is not yet secure. Accepting the end removes this uncertainty. It allows the mind to rest in the feeling that everything has already been accomplished. There is also something incredibly freeing about this way of thinking. When the end is accepted within, you no longer feel the need to force life to deliver your desire. You are not anxiously watching every circumstance, hoping it will move in the right direction. Instead, you move through your days with a quiet confidence, knowing that the outcome has already been settled in the deeper level of your being. During this time, the outer world begins its natural process of rearrangement. Circumstances shift, opportunities appear, and connections form in ways you may not have predicted. Often these changes happen so naturally that they almost seem ordinary. But behind the scenes, the world is responding to the new state of consciousness you have accepted. The key is persistence in the feeling of the end. Even when appearances temporarily suggest otherwise, you gently return your attention to the completed result. You remind yourself that what you have accepted within must eventually express itself in the outer world. This quiet loyalty to the end result keeps your mind aligned with the reality you have chosen. Over time, the evidence begins to appear. What once seemed distant starts becoming tangible. Situations unfold that bring the imagined result into physical form. And when it finally arrives, it often feels surprisingly natural, as though it was always meant to happen. But the real secret is that the transformation began long before the evidence appeared. It began in the moment you decided to accept the end as already accomplished. From that moment forward, the unseen forces of life began moving in alignment with your inner decision. The outer world may take time to catch up, but it always follows the direction set by the inner mind. And the moment you learn to accept the end before the evidence, you unlock one of the most powerful abilities a human being can possess, the ability to shape reality from within. One of the most profound truths about life is that the world around you is constantly reflecting the assumptions you hold within yourself. Every person carries a quiet set of beliefs about who they are, what they deserve, and what they expect from life. These assumptions often operate silently in the background of the mind, shaping experiences without the person even realizing it. Over time, these inner beliefs begin to appear in the outer world as circumstances, relationships, opportunities, and limitations. Most people believe the world simply happens to them. They think life is a collection of random events beyond their control. When something good happens, they call it luck. When something difficult happens, they blame circumstances or other people. But when you begin to observe your experiences closely, you start to notice a pattern. The situations you encounter often match the expectations you carry within. If someone consistently assumes that life is difficult, they tend to encounter obstacles everywhere they go. If another person quietly believes that opportunities always appear for them, life often seems to unfold in their favor. This is because the mind naturally seeks to express what it accepts as true. The assumptions you hold about yourself become the foundation from which your thoughts, reactions, and decisions arise. These inner patterns influence how you interpret events, how you interact with people, and how you respond to challenges. Slowly but surely, these internal attitudes shape the experiences that appear in your life. Imagine two individuals entering the same situation. One person assumes they are confident, capable, and respected. The other assumes they are overlooked and unimportant. Even though they are standing in the same environment, their experiences will be completely different. The first person moves through the situation with natural confidence. They speak clearly, carry themselves with assurance, and expect positive responses from others. The second person may hesitate, doubt their own voice, and expect rejection before it even occurs. Over time, the responses they receive from others begin to reflect the assumptions they carried within from the beginning. This does not mean that people are consciously controlling every event around them. Rather, it means that the state of consciousness they occupy influences how reality unfolds around them. The world responds to the identity a person consistently embodies. When that identity changes, the outer world gradually begins to mirror the new assumption. This is why changing your inner assumption about yourself can transform your entire life. When you decide to see yourself differently, you are not merely thinking positive thoughts. You are stepping into a new state of being. That new state begins influencing everything connected to your experience. The way you think, the way you feel, the way you interpret situations, and the way you respond to opportunities all begin to shift. At first, the outer world may still reflect the old assumption for a short period of time. This happens because circumstances are often the result of past beliefs that were held consistently. But as you continue to occupy the new assumption about yourself, the old reflections begin to fade. Gradually, people respond differently. Situations change. Opportunities appear that were not visible before. It is important to understand that this transformation does not require forcing the world to obey your desires. Instead, it involves occupying a new inner position so completely that your outer experience naturally aligns with it. When your assumption about yourself becomes stable and consistent, reality begins organizing itself to match that inner identity. For example, if you assume that you are someone who naturally attracts success, you begin thinking and acting from that perspective. Your mind becomes open to possibilities rather than focused on limitations. You notice opportunities that you might have ignored before. You approach situations with greater confidence and clarity. Over time, these shifts begin creating results that reflect your new assumption. The world does not mirror your occasional thoughts. It mirrors the state you consistently live from. This is why a single moment of doubt does not undo everything. What matters is the dominant belief you return to again and again. When you repeatedly accept a new assumption about yourself, it gradually becomes your natural state of consciousness. Once this happens, the reflection in the outer world must eventually change. Just as a mirror faithfully reflects whatever stands before it, reality reflects the identity you hold within. If the image in the mirror seems unfavorable, the solution is not to fight the mirror. The solution is to change the position of the one standing before it. When you understand this principle deeply, you realize that life is not something you are powerless within. Your inner assumptions are shaping the direction of your experiences every day. By choosing a new assumption about who you are and what is possible for you, you begin rewriting the script of your life. The world around you may appear solid and unchangeable, but it is constantly responding to the state of consciousness you occupy. Change the assumption within, and eventually the reflection in the world will change as well. Once a powerful inner declaration has been made and the end has been accepted within, the next essential step is persistence. Not persistence through struggle or force, but persistence through loyalty to the feeling that it is already done. Many people begin with excitement when they decide on a new reality for themselves. For a short moment, they feel inspired and certain that change is possible. But as soon as they look at their outer world and see the same conditions still present, doubt slowly begins to creep in. This is where most people unknowingly abandon the very transformation they started. The truth is that every new state of consciousness requires a period of adjustment. The outer world does not instantly reshape itself the moment a new belief is accepted. Instead, it gradually reorganizes to reflect the new inner reality. During this time, persistence becomes the quiet strength that keeps the new assumption alive. It is the willingness to return again and again to the feeling that your desire is already fulfilled, regardless of what current appearances might suggest. Persistence is not about repeating words endlessly or forcing yourself to believe something that feels impossible. Instead, it is about gently returning to the state where the outcome already feels complete. When your mind begins to wander back into doubt or uncertainty, you simply guide it back to the feeling of accomplishment. Over time, this repeated return strengthens the new state until it becomes natural. Think of the mind as a place where habits live. Every belief you have about yourself and about life has been built through repetition over time. If someone has spent years believing that success is difficult or that opportunities rarely appear, those ideas have become deeply rooted habits of thought. When a person decides to accept a new reality, they are essentially replacing an old mental habit with a new one. This is why persistence is necessary. The new belief must be returned to consistently until it becomes stronger than the old pattern. At first, it may feel unfamiliar to think and feel from the position of already having what you desire. The mind might question it. It might try to pull you back toward familiar doubts. But each time you return to the feeling of completion, you strengthen the new identity you have chosen. Eventually, that new identity becomes more natural than the old one. One of the most important aspects of persistence is emotional consistency. When you imagine that your desire has already been fulfilled, allow yourself to feel the calm satisfaction that would naturally follow. There is a quiet confidence in knowing that something is already accomplished. It is not loud or desperate. It does not rush or worry. It simply rests in the certainty that everything is unfolding as it should. This calm certainty is far more powerful than frantic effort. When the mind becomes peaceful about the outcome, it sends a clear signal that the result is already accepted as reality. The outer world then begins its natural process of aligning with that inner state. Circumstances shift, people behave differently, and opportunities appear in ways that may seem surprising. Many times the changes begin subtly. A new idea might appear that leads you in the right direction. A conversation might open a door you had not noticed before. A situation that once seemed blocked may suddenly begin to move forward. These moments may appear ordinary on the surface, but they are often the first visible signs that your persistent inner state is beginning to influence the world around you. It is also important to remember that persistence does not mean perfection. There may be moments when doubt appears, or when the old way of thinking briefly returns. This is completely natural. What matters most is not whether doubt appears, but how quickly you return to the new state you have chosen. Each return strengthens your commitment to the fulfilled reality. Over time, persistence creates stability. The feeling of completion becomes your normal state, rather than something you must constantly remind yourself of. When this happens, the transformation is already well underway. Your mind has accepted the new reality so deeply that it begins expressing itself naturally in your thoughts, words, and actions. Eventually, the outer world must reflect this change. Just as a seed planted in the soil takes time to grow before it becomes visible above the ground, the inner decision you persist in begins to manifest outwardly. What was once imagined becomes experienced. What once felt like a possibility becomes a living reality. The key is simple but powerful. Remain loyal to the feeling that your declaration is already fulfilled. Persist in that quiet certainty, even when appearances have not yet caught up. When you maintain that inner completion, life gradually reshapes itself to match the state you have chosen to live from. Once you have made your inner declaration, accepted the end as already fulfilled, and remained persistent in that feeling of completion, there is one final step that many people overlook. It is the ability to step back and allow reality to rearrange itself naturally. This step requires a deep sense of trust. Not a forced belief, but a quiet confidence that once the inner state has changed, the outer world will eventually align with it. Many people make the mistake of trying to control every detail after setting their intention. They declare a new reality for themselves, but immediately begin worrying about how it will happen. They try to force circumstances, push outcomes, or manipulate situations to match their expectations. In doing so, they unknowingly return to a state of struggle. Instead of living from the feeling that it is already done, they move back into the mindset of trying to make it happen. But when a person truly accepts that their inner state shapes their outer experience, they begin to understand something important. The path between the declaration and its physical expression does not need to be controlled. Life itself knows how to arrange the necessary events. There are countless factors, connections, and possibilities that exist beyond what the logical mind can calculate. When you try to control every step, you limit the natural intelligence that is capable of bringing your desire into reality. Allowing reality to rearrange itself means trusting the process that follows your inner decision. It means you do not constantly watch the world for signs, or become anxious when things appear unchanged. Instead, you continue living from the feeling that your desire has already been fulfilled. Your focus remains on the identity you have accepted rather than the circumstances that have not yet shifted. This mindset creates a powerful sense of ease. When you are no longer trying to force outcomes, your mind becomes calmer and more open. You move through life with confidence instead of tension. Ironically, this relaxed state is often when opportunities begin appearing most naturally. When the mind is not crowded with worry, it becomes more aware of possibilities that were always present but previously unnoticed. Sometimes the rearrangement of reality happens in ways that are completely unexpected. A conversation you did not plan might introduce you to the right opportunity. A sudden idea might guide you toward a new direction. A situation that once seemed like an obstacle may turn into the very path that leads you closer to your goal. These moments often appear ordinary on the surface, but they are part of the unfolding bridge between your inner declaration and the outer result. It is important to understand that this rearrangement does not always follow the timeline the mind expects. The mind often wants immediate proof. It wants to see visible change right away, so it can feel reassured. But the deeper process of transformation operates with perfect timing. Certain events must align, certain connections must occur, and certain conditions must shift before the full expression of your desire appears. When you allow this process to unfold naturally, you create space for solutions that are often far greater than anything you could have planned. Another key part of allowing reality to rearrange itself is releasing the habit of constantly questioning the outcome. When people repeatedly ask themselves whether their desire will happen, they bring their attention back to uncertainty. But when the end has already been accepted within, there is no longer a need to question it. The mind rests in the feeling that everything is already moving in the right direction. Living in this state does not mean becoming passive or doing nothing. Instead, it means acting naturally from the identity you have accepted. If opportunities appear, you respond to them confidently. If ideas arise, you explore them with curiosity. Your actions come from the mindset of someone who already possesses the result, rather than someone desperately trying to achieve it. Over time, this way of living creates a powerful shift in experience. The outer world begins reflecting the calm certainty you carry within. Situations unfold that support your new identity. People respond to you differently. Doors open that once seemed closed. Often, when the final result arrives, it feels almost natural, as though it was always destined to happen. What once seemed impossible begins to feel inevitable, and when you look back, you realize that the transformation began the moment you made that single declaration within yourself. From that moment forward, life started rearranging its pieces in ways you could not see at first. Each event, each opportunity, each unexpected turn became part of the bridge leading you toward the reality you had already accepted. The true power lies in trusting that once the inner decision is made, the outer world will follow. Your role is not to force the outcome, but to remain faithful to the state you have chosen. When you do this, reality quietly reorganizes itself around your new identity. All you had to do was declare it once, and allow the world to rearrange itself. Remember this truth: the world you experience is not separate from you. It is a reflection of the state you have accepted within yourself. Every circumstance, every opportunity, every encounter is responding to the identity you silently carry. When you make a clear inner declaration and accept it as reality, you step into a new state of being. And once you occupy that state, life begins to rearrange itself naturally. You do not need to force events. You do not need to struggle to control outcomes. Your only responsibility is to remain faithful to the decision you have made within. Doubt may appear. Old thoughts may try to return. But each time they do, gently return to the feeling that your declaration is already fulfilled. Stay loyal to the new version of yourself. Live from the certainty that what you have declared is already done. And then, slowly but surely, the world will reflect that inner truth back to you. Doors will open. Paths will appear. Circumstances will shift, not by accident, but because reality always organizes itself around the state of consciousness you choose to live in. So declare it once, accept it fully, and allow the world to rearrange itself around your decision. Thank you so much for listening and spending this time with me. If this message resonated with you, take a moment today to make that powerful inner declaration and hold it with confidence. And if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share it with someone who might need this message today. Your support helps this channel continue spreading powerful ideas that inspire transformation. Stay faithful to your vision, believe in the power within you, and remember, the moment you decide within, reality begins to follow. Thank you for being here, Sparkle.